Time to run cap out of Tbilisi. Just gonna go full cap. So we're gonna take 6 of the R-27ER, which is the extended range 27. So this is the Fox 1 BVR missile for Russia. Take our ECM pods. We're going to take 2 R-27ETs. Those ones are really cool because that's an extended range Fox 2. So Fox 1 is like the American AIM-7, the Sparrow. It gets its guidance from the radar equipment on the jet. So you have to maintain your lock from firing to target all the way through. Fox 2 is your Sidewinder styles, your heaters. So this Russian R-27ET is an extended range infrared shot. And the way you use it is you've got the electro-optical sensor on these like Russian flankers. So you can actually lock someone up using the electro sensor like you were locking with radar, but you're not locking them with radar. So they don't get an RWR warning. They don't know they're getting nails from another plane. And you can fire a BVR shot that's not quite the same range, but it's pretty damn long range, especially for an infrared, because infrared shots are usually really close and only at the ass. Shoot them in the butt from close distance. So these ETs, you can actually stealth lock somebody so they don't know they're being locked, fire a long range infrared missile, and basically they'll just all of a sudden explode. They won't even know what hit them. And that's one of the real, this is why people take flankers and fly them through the mountains on PvP servers. To sneak up and jump out of the mountains, fire a couple of ET shots, and then jump back away. And then I'll take 2 R-73s, which are your standard heaters, the Archers, which are just like all the other heaters. They're not that reliable, and they're very short range. And then we'll take full load of gas guns and flare and chaff. And unfortunately, the SU-33 is just like a flanker. It's almost the same as the 27, except this one is the Navy flanker. It's made to take off from aircraft carriers, so it's got much more robust landing gear, and it's a little bit thicker, and it can carry more weight. It's got more pylons, but it's also not as maneuverable as the 27. But other than that, it's kind of the same. So more missiles. It's much more standoffish. It's not as agile as the 27. It's not as good of a dogfighter, but it's a lot easier to take off and land with it. 27, when you're taking off, you kind of have to get it up to about 250 knots and then almost yank the stick out of the cockpit to get it off the ground quickly. Because if you actually just let the 27 take off with speed, you'll overspeed the gear, because the gear is really, really light. So you got to yank it up off the runway at 250 knots and get the gear up ASAP. Whereas with the SU-33, you could actually just kind of let it. It still takes off at about around the same time, but you don't have to yank the gear. You can just gradually bring it right on up, because it's got a lot more wing here that gives it more. It's got more lift.
Rearming complete.
So taking off's a lot easier, and of course landing, because the gear on this thing, because it's made to land on aircraft carriers, it's got way more robust gear, so it's a lot easier to land it on a runway than the 27. You don't have to be such a baby with the gear. You can kind of just come on down at 300 knots and then idle it out, and even throw up an air brake or something there near the end, and they just land anywhere between 250 and 300 knots, and you're probably fine. It'll be a nice soft landing. And of course, the cockpit looks very similar. The controls are all mainly the same. It's got a few extra controls because the wings fold up, because aircraft carrier. And of course it's got the drop hook for landing on the aircraft carrier, and that's another control. But for the most part, it flies about the same. It's just a little bit heavier and a little bit less agile, but you get a lot more missiles. And with what we learned, let's take off and see if we can shoot something down real quick. And the radar on these flankers is actually really user-friendly. It's kind of nice how you've got the big radar screen down there that's very self-explanatory for the most part. Play around with it just a little bit and you'll figure it out pretty quick. And then of course all of your locking of targets and slewing for target acquisition with the radar is all done on the hood instead of on the radar itself. The radar is just your reference points. So that's kind of nice. You can come down here and reference the radar for objects in space. And then on the hood itself, those targets will show up. And I'll show you as soon as I get in there and I get a target. But the way you IFF is on your radar, kind of like on the F-16, friendlies are circles, enemies are triangles. And on the hood, friendlies are double bars. And non-friendlies, bandits, bogies, are going to be single bars. And then the amount of slashes on the bar is the size of the plane. So like a drone will be like one little hash. A normal like jet will be like 3 bars. Or 1 bar but 3 hashes to make up the bar. You'll see what I mean. Large planes like AWACS and tankers will be 4. And you'll see when I take off, you just get her going. You don't have to use the afterburner to take off. You can just get it up to max, just full throttle. Ease back on the stick a little bit when you hit 250 knots, and then back it forward as soon as you start coming off the ground. Raise the gear up. It's nice and easy. Don't forget to turn your nose wheel steering off as soon as you get up to as soon as you start gaining speed. 90, 100 knots, you can kick the nose wheel off. Because you don't want to be going fast and then hit your nose wheel steering. That's bad. So there we go. That's all the throttle we need to take off. Nose wheel steering off. So now we're steering left and right with just rudder. There we go, nice easy takeoff. Gear up. Now if we want to gain some altitude, we can go ahead and kick on the afterburners now and just go for altitude. Which is what we will do right now. Go into BVR mode right away, turn the radar on, set our distance to about 50 miles. Nothing there right now, just 2 friendlies. And it looks like we've got some enemy planes right here to the left. We will turn 260. And of course everybody knows the degrees of turn is, 360 degrees, 0 true north. All right, and we are cruising. And because we're so far away, we can go ahead and kick the radar over to 100. So that's 100 miles. Now we're not going to be able to like lock on or shoot anything from 100 miles, but if we can pick it up from 100 miles out, it'll just give us a good idea where they are. So we have a reference point. And during this video, we will just time warp till we get closer to some enemies. I'll see you in a minute. Alright, looks like we've got one bogey coming towards us, somewhere around 45 miles out. I believe that is the MiG-29 Fulcrum. And he is gaining altitude, so he is getting ready for an engagement with us, and we're going to go up to, and we're going to go ahead and get the afterburner going. For the first engagement, you want to be high to get into that thin air, so you can get more range on your missile, and you want to be fast, because if you're moving fast, your missile's moving that much faster when you launch. Missiles only have so much burn fuel, and it's not very much, so it's going to burn that and to try to get up to speed. So the faster you're going, the better burn it's going to have. And we are not seeing him yet on our hood, but he's he's a ways out still. Like, we know he's there, but we're not going to be able to like get any kind of lock. This is not like an F-15. The F-15 radar is a bit superior to this, but this one is still, like I said, it's very user friendly. It's working. We know he's there. We just can't see him on the hood yet to try to access him. We see him. We just can't interface with him. Whereas the F-15 is probably already going to be able to interface with him. And he is turning into us. So this looks like it's going to be a standoff between us and the Fulcrum. So we want to get our missile off and get him defensive as best we can. So right now we're flanking him, and that's good because he hasn't fired a missile yet because he's way too far out. We want to get our missile off first. If we can get him defensive, then we can recommit onto him quicker than he can get onto us, and we can press him more. The person that gets more defensive and gets pressed on first is usually the loser in a long distance BVR fight. And of course you have to know missile evasion, which if he fires at us, we'll get into that. And I might just get blown up, because that's the way it works. Even if you do everything right, sometimes you can still get hit. There's no 100% when it comes to missiles. Oh, yeah, no, he's definitely turning into us now, so I'm assuming he's got us on his radar. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my ECM on now. It might not jam at all, but it, you know, if you've got it, use it. I usually go ahead and take the pods on the SU-33 because it's got so many more pylons and more missiles than the 27. I just take it anyway just because it can't hurt. If you can jam them for a little bit more time on the start of a fight and you get your missile off before he does, it's worth it. Alright, we don't have him on the 20-mile radar yet, but it's getting close. Now, as soon as I get him in the 20-mile, I will start trying to fool with the radar a little bit to see if we can pick him up on the hood. Like switching between scan and the high and medium of scan, and probably switching to TWS to see if we can pick him up on TWS, because that's if you can lock somebody on TWS, that's the way to do it. That's the best way. So here we go. He's within 20 now, and actually, boom, there he is. He's on the HUD now. So there's an enemy. See, it's 3 dots. So he's a fighter aircraft, and he's an enemy, and that's why he's a single one. If it was a friendly, it would be 2 bars, one on top of the other here. So it's not letting me actually lock him yet, so we're going to switch to TWS and see if that gets him. So there we go, we got him on TWS. So now we actually have him interfaced. So The first bar on our left bar there, you can see that arrow that's slowly moving down. That's your range of engagement. Those 3 bars at the bottom there, the first bar is when you're able to fire with a mild lock. That doesn't mean it's got a really high chance to kill, but it does mean the missile is tracking the target. When you get to that second bar, that's called the MAR. So that's the minimum abort range. So when you get to that, that's when your firing missiles from there are extremely deadly, and the enemy does not have near the chance to get away. I've got the wrong thing locked up. There we go, now I got the right one. I had the AN-30 locked up, so I need the MiG-29. Now I've got the MiG-29. So now he's in our range, we can fire a missile. Fox 1. So now we're gonna crank. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep him, we're going to go low and to the right, but we're going to keep him on the radar inside of the radar, that cone, because we don't want to lose the lock on him. So we want to mess with his missile by beaming it, or notching, and blowing our chaff, but we're not going to lose the lock, because unlike the Eagle, we cannot lose our lock. We need to maintain it, because it's a Fox 1. So now I'm going to recommit and get another missile on him now that we're closer. And I've already tried to scud the other missile, and this will burn more of the enemy's missile too. Oh, never mind. Got him on the first one, so I don't got to worry about it. So we got lucky there. We got him on the first one. But what I was going to do is fire another missile right here on a recommit, and then have him deal with that while he was still trying to notch my first one. And that's where you can start pressing him. So now we're going to lock up this AN-30, which I believe is a Russian troop transport, like a paratrooper or cargo plane. So we're going to go knock that down, because that can move troops around the airfield. Or on the battlefield, I'm sorry. So that was a good BVR engagement. We took care of the fulcrum, and now we're going to press and take care of their military units that they're trying to transport across the battlefield. So that'll be a successful, good cap mission. That's a good combat air patrol. And I will say most BVR engagements are not going to be that smooth. That went really, everything went perfect. I was able to notch his and chaff it pretty successfully, pretty quickly, and I kept the enemy within the cone of my radar, so I didn't lose lock. Because on these Fox 1s, these Russian BVR shots, you cannot lose the lock. If you lose the lock, the missile's dead. It is not a Fox 3. Like I said, Fox 1 is where it's riding the guidance from the jet all the way to the target. Fox 2 is it just uses it its own and riding the heat signature on the enemy. That's why the enemy doesn't get an RWR warning if you fire a heater. Fox 3 has its own guidance, and it uses the Fox 1 guidance off the jet. So the longer you hold the jet on, the better lock it has. But when you lose the lock, the Fox 3 has a very large chance of just running itself all the way into the target all by itself, especially if you're within the MAR for the Fox 3. And then that's why they're extremely deadly. So here we go. We're going to take this out. So Fox 1, and this is a transport plane, so we don't have to worry about trying to notch anything. He's not shooting missiles back at us. We can just hold the lock right on him and blow him up. Just like that. So splash 1 and 30. So you can't ask for a better engagement than that. That was 2 shots, 2 enemies down. And that's what you hope every engagement's like, but trust me, rarely is it like that. I'm kind of lucky I'm filming this one. Now, because we are full cap, we're just going to kind of head back to our own airspace now, because we don't have anything we can throw at a ground target. The skies are clear around here. We stopped their troops from being transported to the front lines. We stopped their fulcrum that might have blown up our helicopters or our planes that are doing close air support and taking out ground units. So we did our job. And this is on the multiplayer Burning Skies, Burning Skies server is where I just did this one. So if you guys are interested in doing a multiplayer server like this, Burning Skies is a good one to start with. So is Hogget. I spend a lot of time on both those servers. And depending on the planes you like flying, if you like flying some of the older ones, Enigma's Cold War server is a really good one too. And I am going to head back to base, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little BVR adventure. I've been working a lot on BVRs ever since I did the first flanker video and the F-15 Screaming Eagle video. And now that I've gotten a lot more experience under my belt and correct information on all the missiles, because like if anyone watched my F-15 video, you'll know that I had to redo it because I was working off some very flawed information that I was mistaken about, and I also got some bad information with that kind of messed everything up. So this is how I'm doing now. It just took time and practice learning the jets and learning the missiles and how they work. Makes all the difference in the world. And I hope everyone tries it, because if you want to fly, this is the closest to real flying you'll ever get. And I'm happy I found this because of now I'm disabled. I can't really get out and do much. This allows me to fly again, and it's really nice. It's really helping me with purpose. And we are heading back to the airport that we left from, and we burnt off quite a bit of fuel doing that BVR engagement, but that happens because, like I said, BVR, when you're at the start, you got to gain some altitude because you want a thin air missile for your first launch, because you need to get as much range and speed out of that first missile as you possibly can. And you want to be moving fast too. You know, and when it comes to jet fighting, slow is dead, unless you're an A-10. So we definitely burnt a lot of fuel, but we've actually got plenty of fuel left, and I'm not really worried about dumping the fuel because it's only 30,000 pounds left, or 28,000 when we get there, maybe. And I'm not worried about dumping the missiles because, again, the SU-33 has got very robust landing gear. You don't have to baby it near as much as you would like a Sukhoi-27. Or the worst landing gear in the world, the Sukhoi-25T Frogfoot. Boy, that thing's a nightmare to land no matter what, because the gear is like, it's the heaviest, thickest tank of a plane you can fly, and its landing gear is made out of backwards toothpicks. And inner tubes from Walmart. I've landed a Frogfoot just tons and tons and tons of times, and it still makes me sweat every time trying to land that thing, just because I know how easy it is to blow the gear out on that thing. Even when you land good and light, you can still blow the gear out. Plus, I've got this really bad habit. Anyone that's hung out on my streams for a while knows that if I get shot from ground targets, the first thing I lose is one of my landing gear. It's always a tire. Even when I'm flying A-10s, it's always a tire. I'll bring my gear down, and the left tire or the right tire will already be destroyed because it got shot. It's just my luck. I don't play tabletop dice games anymore because my dice rolls are just garbage. I am literally I'm disabled because of a rare genetic disorder. I literally have the worst luck ever. It's Nix's law, as I've been told throughout my whole life. It's not Murphy's law, it's Nix's law. And that's a fact. And we're just going to use our radar to get right back to base. Easy peasy, don't got to worry about speed or lining up right now, because we're just going to fly right up to the airport, and we'll do an overhead brake when we get there to get lined up. There's not a bunch of traffic. Well, there's a little bit of traffic actually. Oh no, that's our AWACS. So we don't have to worry about other players running into us. Although I don't really need to afterburn all the way there, but I was Using my afterburner just to cruise back because it will burn more fuel. See, I was at 29,000, now I'm at 22,000. And that's just because I wanted to burn up the extra fuel so that we're a little bit lighter. The lighter you are, the easier. Ask any pilot in real life, you know, dumping fuel before you land is just something that happens a lot. In most cases, your flight plan, you know, is planned out to where you're not going to have to dump fuel because you're coming in close to bingo each time anyway. But in a lot of cases, you're dumping fuel because you want to be below a certain weight before you even attempt to land in most jets. But we're light enough. I'm not worried about it anymore. Like I said, the 33 is pretty not too bad to land for the most part. Depends on how windy it is. Everything can be a tricky thing to land, but it's got a good robust speed brake, an air brake, so you can kind of manhandle it down if you need to. If you're a little off, you know, you can feather your throttle and just do braking landings and stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal. And then like the A10, I can land that thing from like whatever position. But that's my bread and butter. Like I have no pressure or sweating of landing an A10. You want me to go full throttle over the top brake from whatever altitude you want? That's fine. I'll be fine. It's been a difference for me trying to fly these extremely fast jets, but I'm getting the hang of it. Actually, I don't need to do an overhead brake because I've got the marker set up on my radar already, so piece of cake. Another good thing about the Russian radar, you know, it's all right there for me. My airport's got a big square around it. That's where I left from. The only thing that sucks is this is not full fidelity, so I can't like reach down here on the computer and program another waypoint in flight if I have to switch. But I do believe you can change up where you're going to land by using your radio, you know, your commands. And if you switch the radio, it will switch your destination, I think, on your programming of your navigation, I think. I'm pretty sure. But don't quote me on that because I haven't really messed with that aspect yet on this plane. Alright, there's the forward airport. There's the other one, and we're looking for... Okay, I think that is the one we're going to land at, right there. I think that's the one. But to be honest, we don't got to worry about that yet. We'll just come out here a little farther, and then we'll break into that line, and we'll just line up with the line to the airport, and that should give us close enough to where we can see it from there. Going a little bit fast, we'll bring out the air brake just to slow us down a bit. Remember, it's harder to slow down if you're going too fast. So you want to slow down a little preemptively if you're worried about it, and then you can always speed up just with a little bit of throttle. We're a little high here, so we'll go ahead and keep the air brake down and lose a little altitude. Like I said, look at that speed, just maintaining. I'm losing altitude, I was maintaining 560 knots, so. Alright, we'll bring the air brake back in for now. Keep doing our nice gradual turn back into the runway, which is right there in front of us. And we will bring the air brake back out because we want to get our speed down to get our gear out. Usually around 350. I'll go ahead and drop the gear then. I think I've dropped the gear down at like 400 or 410. It's not that big of a deal if you're already slowing down, but you don't want to bring in your gear out when you're doing 500 knots in any kind of alpha or G. Alright, so we're going to go into landing configuration now. We're going to go gear out, flaps out. We will bring the air brake back in because we're going a little slow now.
Fuel 1500.
Perfect. When we get down, we'll just nose up a little bit. You don't want to go high AOA, but you want to give it up a little bit. I'm going a little slow here. I need to speed it up a little bit. And there we go, like a glove, piece of cake, right? Alright, all you pilots out there, thanks for coming along with that flight with me. That was just like a really standard cap run. That's Combat Air Patrol. We went up, we helped our team by taking care of an air superiority fighter that would have shot down some of our CAS flights and some of our helicopters that are moving troops around and capturing zones for us and taking care of ground targets. And then we took care of their transport plane that would have moved their troops into the front lines, helping them take more territory back. And that's what running Combat Air Patrol is all about. It's about finding the enemy's air superiority targets and wiping them out so that you can move your troops forward, and also eliminating any of their troops that they're moving around. And that's the way it's done. Go out, shoot them, no damage to your plane, make it back in one piece and land. And that's what all my training so far in these air superior fighters has done for me, and that's how it's gotten me this far. And if you enjoyed that, you should get into DCS, get your own modules, and come up into the skies with everybody else. It's a lot of fun, and the community is really cool, and it's really rewarding. Even if you don't have any flight experience, I do have flight experience, but if you don't, this is a great entry because these jets are the real jets. They handle and they fly like the real thing. So this is the real deal, and it's so rewarding. And I just want to tell everyone that you should definitely come in and join us. It is a lot of fun, and everyone should do it. So like, subscribe, come to a stream and hang out with me sometime. You can fly with me or just talk or whatever you want to do on stream, or check out the YouTube channel and enjoy the videos. And if you have anything to say, you can always get a hold of me through the email or in the comments, and I'll see you all in the skies. You have a good night.